Life had already dealt Madison more blows than most could handle. A single mother working double shifts at a diner, her entire paycheck went to her daughter's school fees and her mother's cancer treatments. On New Year's Eve, while other waitresses rushed home to their families, Madison noticed an elderly man in the corner booth, tears streaming down his face. Her decision to stay past her shift and comfort a stranger meant missing her daughter's first New Year's countdown. She never imagined her simple act of kindness would matter so much. 3 days later, she stood in her kitchen, trembling. A mysterious envelope lay on her counter. What was inside would change her life forever. Hi everyone, welcome to Mystic Tales. Today, I'm excited to share a new story with you. The evening shift at Joe's Diner was usually quiet on holidays, but New Year's Eve was different. Madison wiped down the counter as the winter wind rattled the large windows. Her phone buzzed again. It was her daughter, Lucy. "Mommy, when are you coming home? Grandma helped me put up the decorations." Lucy's sweet voice filled the line. Madison glanced at the clock. "Just 2 more hours, sweetheart. Save some hot chocolate for me. Promise you won't be late? It's New Year's Eve." "I promise, baby. Give Grandma a big hug for me." The diner was almost empty. Most customers were already heading home to their families. Only Tom, the cook, and Madison remained on staff. The other waitresses had left early, their sections already clean. "Madison, you should head home too. Your little one is waiting," Tom called from the kitchen. She smiled, thinking of Lucy's excitement about their small celebration. Times were tough since David passed away 2 years ago. Between Lucy's school fees and her mother's cancer treatments, every extra shift counted. The bell above the door chimed. An elderly man walked in, his coat dusted with snow. He chose the corner booth, the one by the frosted window. Madison grabbed a menu and approached him with a warm smile. "Welcome to Joe's. Can I get you started with some coffee?" The man looked up. His eyes were red and his hands trembled slightly as he tried to open the menu. "Just coffee, please." When Madison returned with his coffee, she noticed a tear rolling down his cheek. He quickly wiped it away, but his hands were shaking so much that he almost spilled his coffee. "Sir, are you all right?" Madison asked softly. The man stared into his coffee cup. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't be here. It's New Year's Eve. You probably have family waiting." Madison glanced at the clock again. An hour and 45 minutes until her shift ended. Lucy's face flashed in her mind, but something in the man's voice made her pause. "Would you like some company?" she asked, sliding into the booth across from him. The man looked up, surprised. "You don't have to do that," he said. "You came everywhere for the dog. He's bad enough, I think." "Sometimes talking helps," Madison said. "I'm Madison." "Robert," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "My wife Helen, she loved this diner. We spent every New Year's Eve here for 43 years. This is the first one without her." Madison felt her heart sink. She reached across the table and gently patted his hand. The diner's old heating system hummed in the background as snow continued to fall outside. Her phone buzzed again. Lucy's message read, "Mommy, the ball drop is in 2 hours. Please come home soon." Madison looked at Robert, then at her phone, and made a decision that would set unexpected events in motion. Madison sent a quick message to Lucy. "Sweetie, I might be a little late. Someone needs help." Her daughter replied instantly, "But Mom, you promised." The guilt weighed heavy in Madison's chest. She looked at Robert, who was staring at an old photograph in his weathered wallet. "Is that Helen?" Madison asked softly. Robert nodded. "Our first New Year's Eve here in 1980. We had just moved to town. Helen ordered the apple pie. Said it was the best she ever tasted." Tom appeared with a concerned look. "Madison, your shift ended 5 minutes ago." "It's okay, Tom. I'll stay a bit longer." Tom glanced at Robert, then back at Madison. "I'll make a fresh pot of coffee before I go." The diner was silent except for the gentle hum of the old ceiling fans and the occasional car passing by outside. Robert's hand steadied as he held his coffee cup. "Tell me about Helen," Madison said. She was a kindergarten teacher. The children adored her. Every Christmas she knitted scarves for her entire class. Robert's voice cracked. We never had children of our own, but she had hundreds of them through her teaching. Madison thought about Lucy. How long were you married? 43 years, 2 months, and 15 days. Robert pulled out another photo. This was last New Year's Eve. We didn't know it would be our last. The photo showed a happy couple, gray-haired but bright-eyed, sitting in this same booth. Helen wore a red sweater and had the kindest smile Madison had ever seen. Cancer took her in March, Robert said. It happened so fast. One day she was teaching her class. The next. He wiped his eyes with a napkin. Madison's phone buzzed again. It was her mother. Lucy's crying. Where are you? The clock showed 11:15 p.m. Madison's chest tightened, but she couldn't leave Robert alone. Not like this. My late husband David loved this diner too, Madison shared. He used to say, diners are where strangers become family. Robert looked up. Helen said the same thing. She always made friends wherever she went. Tom emerged from the kitchen with his coat on. I'm heading out. Madison, you sure about staying? Yes, I'll. The spare key is in the usual spot. Happy New Year, folks. The bell chimed as Tom left. Robert watched the snow falling outside. I should go. You've already missed so much of your evening. Sometimes, being there for someone else is more important than any celebration, Madison said, remembering how others had helped her after David's passing. She stood up and walked to the kitchen, returning with 2 slices of apple pie. The aroma of cinnamon and warm apples filled the air. Helen was right, she said, placing a slice in front of Robert. This is the best apple pie in town. The old wall clock ticked closer to midnight. Robert took a small bite of the apple pie and closed his eyes. Tastes just like she remembered it, he said softly. Helen always said food tastes better when you share it with someone. Madison's phone lit up with another message. She turned it face down on the table. The guilt of missing Lucy's celebration gnawed at her. But something told her she needed to stay. Did you and Helen have any New Year's traditions? Madison asked. Robert smiled faintly. We would write our hopes for the new year on napkins. Silly little things, really. Getting a new plant for her garden. Taking a weekend trip to see the fall colors. I could use your self-care suggestion. He pulled out his wallet again and carefully unfolded a wrinkled napkin. This was her last one. She wrote, to see the spring flowers bloom one more time. The diner's heating system clicked and hummed. Outside, the snow had stopped, leaving the street quiet and white. A few people walked past the window, hurrying to their celebrations. What about you? Robert asked. Any traditions with your daughter? Madison nodded. Lucy loves to make paper chains for the countdown. 1 chain for each minute until midnight. She's 8 now, but we've done it since she was 4. Children make everything magical, Robert said. Helen's students gave her that same joy. Every year, they would make her New Year cards, with wobbly letters and glitter everywhere. The clock showed 11:45 p.m. Madison stood up to refill their coffee cups. The diner felt different at this hour, peaceful in its emptiness. I used to own a small business consulting firm, Robert said. Helped people turn their dreams into reality. Helen always said my real talent was seeing potential in people. She was the same way with her students. End of chapter 6. End of chapter 1. He paused, watching as Madison placed the fresh coffee before him. Thank you, Madison, not just for the coffee. For making this difficult night a little less lonely. My mother always says kindness costs nothing, but means everything, Madison replied, thinking of her own struggles and the people who had helped along the way. The distant sound of fireworks started to pop in the neighborhood. Some early celebrators couldn't wait for midnight. The sound reminded Madison of Lucy waiting at home, but the gratitude in Robert's eyes confirmed she had made the right choice. Helen would have liked you, Robert said quietly. She believed in moments like this, when strangers become friends over coffee and pie. As midnight approached, the sound of distant celebrations grew louder. Madison cleared their empty pie plates, the ceramic clinking softly in the quiet diner. "Would you mind if we did something?" Robert asked, reaching for a clean napkin from the dispenser. "One last tradition. For Helen." Madison sat back down. Robert smoothed the napkin and took out a pen from his coat pocket. His handwriting was neat but slightly shaky as he wrote, "To honor Helen by helping others, just as she always did." He slid another napkin toward Madison. "Would you write one too?" Madison thought for a moment and wrote, "To make Lucy proud and give her the life she deserves." "A mother's love," Robert said softly. "Helen would have appreciated that." The clock struck midnight. Fireworks burst in the sky outside the diner window, painting the snow-covered street in flashes of red and gold. "Happy New Year, Robert," Madison said. "Happy New Year, Madison. Thank you for making it less difficult than I feared." Robert reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. His hands trembled slightly as he sealed their napkins inside. "Sometimes life gives us unexpected gifts," he said, writing something on the envelope. "Like meeting someone who reminds us we're not alone." Madison's phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo of Lucy, asleep on their worn couch, still wearing her party hat. Her mother had written, "She tried to wait up for you. You should go home to your daughter," Robert said, standing up slowly. "I've kept you long enough." Madison helped him with his coat. "Will you be okay?" Yes, I think I will. Helen always said, healing comes in small steps. Tonight was one of those steps." As they walked to the door, Robert turned to Madison. "The diner's closed tomorrow for New Year's Day, isn't it?" Madison nodded, turning the key in the lock. "Good. Take that time with your family," he said, patting his pocket where he'd placed the envelope. "Some things are more precious than work." They parted ways on the snowy sidewalk. Robert headed toward the parking lot, his figure silhouetted against the continuing fireworks. Madison watched until he safely reached his car, then turned toward home, unaware that their paths would cross again sooner than she expected. 3 days later, Madison stood at her mailbox, sorting through bills. Between the usual envelopes, she found a cream-colored one with the diner's address. Inside were the 2 napkins from New Year's Eve, along with a letter and a business card. "Dear Madison," the letter began, "your kindness on New Year's Eve reminded me of Helen's greatest lesson, that the smallest acts of compassion can change lives. For 40 years my consulting firm helped small businesses grow. Now, in Helen's memory, I want to help you." Madison's hands trembled as she read on. "I've seen how hard you work, the way you put your daughter first, just as Helen put her students first. I would like to offer you a position at Robert Mitchell Consulting as our office manager. The salary is $55,000 a year, with full benefits including health insurance. More importantly, the hours would let you be home every evening with Lucy." She had to sit down on her front steps. The morning sun felt warm on her face as she continued reading. "Helen always said everyone needs a chance to build their dreams. Consider this yours. The position starts whenever you're ready. Take time to think about it. My office number is on the card." Madison looked at the business card. Robert Mitchell, CEO. The address was just 20 minutes from her home. Her mother opened the front door. "Madison? Is everything okay?" "Mom," Madison's voice cracked. "Remember that elderly customer from New Year's Eve?" She handed the letter to her mother, who read it slowly, tears forming in her eyes. Inside, they could hear Lucy getting ready for school. "This would mean no more double shifts," her mother said softly. "No more missing Lucy's bedtime." Madison picked up the napkins that had started it all, her simple wish for Lucy's future, next to Robert's promise to honor Helen. "Mommy, I'm ready for school," Lucy called, bouncing down the stairs in her winter coat. Madison hugged her daughter tight. "How would you feel if Mommy could pick you up from school every day?" Lucy's eyes widened. "Really? No more late shifts at the diner?" "Really?" Madison smiled, looking at the business card again. "Sometimes helping others means allowing them to help you too. That evening, Madison sat at her kitchen table and dialed the number on the card. As it rang, she looked at the napkin with her New Year's wish. A wish that was about to come true, not through magic, but through a simple act of kindness on a snowy New Year's Eve. "Robert Mitchell speaking," came the familiar voice. "Mr. Mitchell, this is Madison from the diner." Madison, his voice warmed. "Helen would be very proud of the choice I made. Are you ready to start a new chapter?" Madison looked at Lucy doing homework at the counter and her mother preparing dinner. "Yes," she said. "I am." Loved this story? Tap that like button and subscribe to Mystic Tales for more. Let us know how this story made you feel with a single word in the comments.